The train doors opened, and I saw him, sprawled across 5 seats like he was royalty. One leg up, shoes on the seats, his backpack dumped beside him, and his phone blasting music loud enough to make my skin crawl. People were standing everywhere, exhausted, quiet, pretending not to care, while this one smug teenager acted like the world revolved around him. I asked him politely to move his bag. He looked up, smirked, and said, "Nah, I don't think so." And that's when I decided this kid was about to learn a life lesson the hard way. If you've ever had someone treat you like you're invisible or wished karma would show up immediately, this story is for you. Hit that like button, subscribe if you believe in instant justice, and get ready, because this is the story of how one entitled teen met a woman who doesn't back down. It was supposed to be a normal day. I had an interview that morning, an important one. The kind of opportunity I'd been hoping for weeks. I didn't want to risk traffic, so I decided to take the metro. I remember clutching my coffee cup like it was armor against the chaos of the morning rush. The train arrived, packed as always. People squeezed in, barely breathing, eyes half open, earbuds in. You could almost taste the collective fatigue. I stepped in, holding onto the pole, trying not to spill my coffee. Then I saw him. Tall but gangly, hoodie up, cap tilted sideways, one sneaker on the seat, the other dangling in the aisle. His backpack was thrown across 2 seats, and he was lying sideways across the rest, sprawled out like a cat basking in sunlight. And the music. Oh my God, the music. It was blasting from his phone like he was trying to DJ the entire train. People were standing around him. Older folks, office workers, even a pregnant woman. And no one said a word. Everyone just tolerated it. I stared for a moment, waiting for someone to say something. No one did. That's when I felt that slow, simmering anger building in my chest. I walked up and said, politely but firmly, "Hey, could you move your bag so I can sit?" He didn't even look up right away. He just smirked. Then, without missing a beat, he said, "Nah, I don't think so." Like it was the most normal response in the world. That smirk, that lazy, dismissive grin, it made my stomach twist. I could feel every pair of eyes in the train flick toward me for half a second, then away again. No one wanted to get involved. He leaned back, turned his music up even louder, and closed his eyes like I didn't exist. For a few seconds, I just stood there. Because part of me, the polite, don't make a scene part, said, let it go. He's just a kid. Not worth it. But then another part of me, the part that's had to deal with being talked over, dismissed, underestimated, whispered back, no. You don't let this one slide. I wasn't angry because I didn't have a seat. I was angry because he looked at me and saw someone too timid to challenge him. And that's what lit the fire. I took a deep breath, stepped forward, and without another word, grabbed his bag. It wasn't heavy, maybe a few notebooks and a water bottle. I gave it a little check, made sure there wasn't a laptop or anything breakable inside. Then, calmly, I turned and tossed it right across the aisle a few feet away onto the floor near the door. The reaction was instant. The music stopped. His eyes flew open. What the hell are you doing? Go get my bag. His voice cracked, halfway between outrage and disbelief. I met his gaze and said evenly, you can go get it yourself. Or you can try to make me. The entire train went silent. The kind of silence that hums in your ears. He stood up, taller than I expected, but awkward, all angles and limbs. His jaw tightened, fists clenched, trying so hard to look intimidating. And I'll be honest, my heart was pounding. But fear and resolve are strange companions. They often show up together. I crossed my arms and waited. You could see the calculation in his eyes, weighing whether I was bluffing. But I wasn't. After a few long, tense seconds, he huffed, loud and dramatic, then stomped down the aisle to grab his bag. That was my moment. I sat down. And not just me. I gestured to the people around me, silently inviting them to sit too. An older woman gave me a small, grateful smile and took a seat beside me. A man in a suit nodded and sat on the other side. Within moments, the 5 seats he'd been sprawling across were filled. His throne was gone. He came back, holding his bag tightly, face red with fury. "What the hell, lady? That was my seat." I looked up at him, calm as ever.
"No."
"That was everyone's seat. You were just hogging it." He glared at me, breathing hard, like he wanted to explode. I held his stare. Then I said, "You can have your seat back if you can make me move." The challenge hung in the air. He froze. Because deep down, he knew this wasn't going to end his way. He muttered something under his breath, I think it was "crazy woman," and stormed off to the far end of the car. And the train stayed peaceful. For the first time that morning, I actually smiled. For a while, no one said anything. But then the woman next to me leaned over and whispered, "Good for you." I wish I had the nerve to do that. A few others nodded quietly, like we'd just witnessed a tiny revolution in public transport etiquette. I felt my pulse still racing, but not from fear anymore, from relief. Because here's the truth. I didn't do it to be a hero. I did it because sometimes you get tired of being polite to people who mistake kindness for weakness. When I got off of my stop, I glanced back through the window.
He was sitting this time.
Upright. Quiet. Bag on his lap. Music off. He looked like a completely different person. I walked up the platform with this weird sense of calm. Because I knew I hadn't humiliated him. I'd educated him. In the only language arrogance understands. Consequence. Later that day, I kept thinking about it. Why did that moment matter so much? And I realized it wasn't about the seat at all. It was about boundaries. When someone disrespects you in public, it doesn't just hurt your feelings. It makes you feel invisible. It makes you question whether standing up for yourself is even worth it. But when you finally do push back, even just once, it's like reclaiming a little piece of your voice. And that's exactly what that train ride became, a quiet act of rebellion against every moment I'd ever been dismissed. A few weeks later, fate decided to have a sense of humor. Same metro line.
Different day.
I stepped onto the train, coffee in hand, and there he was. Same hoodie. Same sneakers. But this time, he was sitting properly. Bag tucked neatly on the floor. Music quiet. He looked up and saw me instantly. His eyes widened. And for a second he froze. Then he gave this tiny, awkward nod, almost like respect. I smiled back, just a little, and took a seat across from him. No words exchanged. No tension. Just silent understanding. Here's the thing about moments like that, they stay with you. Not because of the confrontation, but because of what it symbolizes. That kid? He learned something that day that no lecture or scolding could teach. That actions have consequences, and respect isn't optional. And me? I learned that you don't have to be loud to stand your ground. You just have to stop apologizing for taking up space in a world that keeps trying to shrink you. The real revenge wasn't when I threw his bag. It wasn't even when I took that seat. It was that quiet, powerful moment weeks later, when I saw him sitting respectfully, changed by something as simple as someone finally saying no. He'll probably never remember my face, but I know he'll remember the feeling of losing those seats. And maybe, the next time he's tempted to act like the world owes him something, he'll think twice. You know, sometimes karma doesn't come in thunder and lightning. Sometimes it comes in the form of a tired woman on her way to work, who's just done putting up with arrogance. The world doesn't owe anyone special treatment, and the moment you forget that, someone will remind you. If this story gave you that spark of satisfaction, hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. And tell me in the comments, what's the most satisfying instant karma moment you've ever seen in public? Because trust me, sometimes the smallest acts of courage can make the biggest impact.